to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
I said that all the time. Half of the person, my grandmother.
All right. It's a Thursday night, and we feel like we are doing it just fine. If you think you tuned in to Joel Wilson on the Super Jam Show, where you're not, it's Talk Today, and we're going to have a great time in the studio as we welcome you to be a part of our discussion. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. And Royal Fidelity Bank and Trust, money at work.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. 949-8237 if you want to be a part of our discussion. 1-800-534-8255. Who knows if it's working today, but guess what? DJ Lynn is working, and like all diligent civil servants, he exhibits that great work ethic and ethos. So I'm honored in that vein to be able to welcome from the National Drug Council and the Bridge Foundation individuals that epitomize commitment to community and service above self. From the NDC, Mr. Simon Miller, together with his colleague, Mr. Evan McLean, and from the Bridge Foundation, Emma Sabrina Paul. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. How are you all today?
Good afternoon, Mr. Sterling, and to your listeners, pleasant good afternoon.
You ever find how the day is better when you're surrounded by good people?
Yeah, man.
I'll tell you, man.
With a good attitude.
With a good...
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, see that, man? No. They say we are two or more West Bayers together. There's also a lot. So it's all good, my friends. It's all good. But the thing is, we look at what probably is a sobering day for many tomorrow in terms of its solemnness, but then the promise of expectation comes Sunday for those who, would recognize and worship. But also the fact that this weekend in itself presents for us an opportunity for fellowship, and that's going to take many veins, and we always don't appreciate how that could translate into people being a little bit more challenged, a little bit more perhaps pensive, and sometimes purposeful. So as we look at the whole issue of substance abuse, alcohol as a drug, tobacco as a drug, even sometimes the use and abuse of chocolate could be a drug.
Yeah.
Simon, from that perspective, Alcohol Awareness Month. I mean, it's important that we appreciate that it is not just legal, but it can be abused, and it probably is.
Yeah. I mean, it's the whole month for April. We try to bring attention to it. Not only here locally, but globally. Organizations, entities all over the world take this month to bring attention to alcohol and some of the damaging effects of alcohol. And to your point earlier, it has become a socially accepted thing. So therefore, people no longer look at it as a drug. They don't even categorize it. A lot of people that you have a conversation with. And we need people to be reminded and be mindful of that.
And I think it's and I say this carefully because friends and foe, I don't have enough friends. I'm just sorry. As we, if I can't find a day to laugh, Ivan reminds me, to at least be blessed, right?
Amen.
But as we see, there are many of us for whom it is impossible to gather socially without some sort of libation. It doesn't have to be to excess, but it's because it's the expectation. But Simon, it has telltale signs and seriously knock-on consequences for the individual, the family, the community, and the economy.
Yeah.
So
the ripple effect.
You don't want to trickle down. This is a little bit different. But how is welcome? You share with me your perspective before I maybe ask further. But we see that it's use and abuse quite easily within a society.
Yes, and one of the truths is that it's one person in every 10 that perhaps clearly demonstrates having an issue with substances. Well, alcohol. That's the subject. With alcohol, and it's easy to think, well, that's just one person out of 10. But the truth is that ripple effect. When I act out when I act irresponsibly, and the repercussions that are had because of that, the likes of an accident is a good example. The ripple effect. There is one family, two families, not to mention perhaps the third family, the driver or the person that's operating a vehicle that while intoxicated. So you have 2 or 3 handful of persons that are adversely affected then, and suffice to say, if we can assist that one person in particular in better understanding, well, if they're problematic in its use, they shouldn't be. They should be exercising restraint and tooling them in how to stay restrained.
Right.
Because such is the times that we're right in. This is a party weekend. You know the truth? My second eldest brother, tomorrow will be exactly 1 year that he passed. And the following day, I am 1 year older. And I'm telling you, 10 years ago, I definitely wouldn't be sitting here. That would be bloody good reason for me in that active, addictive thinking. The behavior would just follow in that I would smother myself in drugs and alcohol. And but that tooling piece, being better practiced now at navigating life on life's terms,
Right.
I
mean, it is a sobering
remaining
thought,
sober.
right? It is a sobering thought.
It is a sobering thought.
And that's not to be facetious or even try to attempt at a pun. But I look at supporting CAS organizations, as you were talking about the knock-on effect. Al-Anon, for instance, comes to mind because it's impact on not just the person who has the addiction, but the family.
Yes.
And to that, the Bridge Foundation being able to provide. Now, Ms. Emma Sabrina, you weigh in because we see the challenges that not only the individual might have relative to dealing with the navigating, but then employment, acceptance, and again being sort of welcome back into society. 25 years hence, of sobriety, and someone will say, "Yeah, but I remember." Wait a minute, you remember? What about it now? So, from that, Sabrina, what are your thoughts? I mean, how does the community support, organizations like Bridge? How do we as individuals look without judgment in condemnation?
Well, that's it can become really difficult with lack of knowledge. The more educated an individual is about what addiction and alcoholism really is, the better they're able to understand and assist an individual that's struggling with those problems. Quite often, there'll be a family member and nobody in the family really understands that person, so they, because they don't have the knowledge of what the disease of alcoholism is. So without that knowledge, they tend to make situations worse by not dealing with that individual the way that they should be dealt with. I'm not encouraging anyone to get drunk, but I'm saying, it's alcoholism and addiction is a disease that you have to learn. There's no cure for it, but you have to learn how to manage it, and that's that's the role that we really play in all of this. You know, we partner with the NDC, the treatment center, even the crisis center, all these organizations that try to contribute to bringing these people to a place in their lives where they're more productive and valued citizens. You know, but one of the biggest problems I find with alcoholism is the lack of stigma that someone under the influence of alcohol is not given, you know, as opposed to someone under the influence of some other drug, because alcohol is illegal, you know. But I think that the public needs to be more educated on the fact that it is a disease. It's just like cancer. You know, addiction is something that, in my belief, I'm not a professional, but in my belief, every one of us is born with that, you know, and some of us gravitate towards food, some of us gravitate towards shopping, and there's the unfortunate ones that gravitate towards alcohol or drugs, you know. But like I said, even cancer there's no cure for cancer today, but if you're treated properly, eventually you get into remission, and that's kind of the role that the bridge plays in all of this, because once the person as an individual has gone to treatment, you know, then if they go to treatment or they go to prison or whatever for this problem, and they leave that institution and come back into society, into the same environment, among the same people and everything, there's no other result except they're going to go back to what they're doing. So the bridge provides transitional homes where we try to assist people coming from those institutions back into society. We bring them into our homes, you know, and treat them how to live life on life terms, because we still have to do that, you know, and in doing so, hope that it will result in that individual, you know, getting a good job, getting a driver's license, becoming a productive member of society, and when they actually transition from then back into society from our homes, they're a productive individual throughout our community. That's the result we look for. Right.
And as we go into the break, I'm reminded, there by the grace of God go I.
Yes,
I think that's something that we don't appreciate, and we don't know the struggles, the traumas, the trials, the tribulations that smiling face may conceal, or what that burning heart may reveal if you would ask and sincerely seek. But as I look at the three of you, I'm reminded that much can be hard if we work hand in hand. So after the break, the next 15 minutes or so, we're talking more about it, and how us as a community appreciate the social acceptance could be part and parcel as to why we have the consequences. All right. Alcohol Awareness Month. Rejoin us after the break. Stay tuned for talk.
At Subway, we know a meal isn't quite complete without a side, and that's why we're introducing waffle fries. Subway's waffle fries are oven-baked softness with extra crispy edge, giving a satisfying taste to be enjoyed as is or in any of Subway's dipping sauces. Order waffle fries as a side item for $2 or make it a meal deal with any sandwich or salad with a 20-ounce drink and waffle fries for an additional $3 or a 30-ounce or bottle drink and waffle fries for an additional $3.50. Subway, eat fresh.
Yes. Spring is in the air, and Easter is also around the corner. So too is Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy located in Countryside Shopping Village. Stocked with Easter gifts and treats and new spring apparel. Remember, they're always just around the corner, with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Get all of your Easter purchases at Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village. Make your life easy. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy. Wholesome values with modern conveniences.
We are in an age of exponential change. The world is experiencing a technology boom where innovation is at an all-time high. What does this mean for small island nations? How can we adapt to the emerging digital revolution? Join 900 delegates from 3 Caribbean countries at one regional event to tackle the theme, Global Digital Disruption, Threat or Opportunity. The virtual RF Economic Outlook Conference happens on May 6th. Register today at rfeoc.com.
During March, CUC and CUC's subcontractors, UMC, will be erecting poles and stringing power lines between 8 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. on Fridays and Mondays, and 6:30 a.m. and 5 p.m. on Saturdays and Sundays on Rex Crichton Boulevard in Prospect. Motorists are encouraged to use Shamrock Road when possible and to exercise extreme caution when using Rex Crichton Boulevard, as there will be temporary lane blockages and traffic management in place. For more information, contact 949-5200 or email service@cuc.ky or cindy@umc.ky.
The Ministry of Education provides funding to assist Caymanian children who turn 3 years old before September the 1st to attend an early childhood centre. This funding is available through the Early Childhood Assistance Programme, ECAP. Parents and guardians are now invited to submit ECAP applications for the upcoming 2021 to 2022 academic year. Application forms are available at the Government Administration Building, early childhood centres across the island, or online from the Ministry's website at www.education.gov.ky. For further information, please call the Early Childhood Unit at 244-3155. Completed application forms may be emailed to ecap@gov.ky, that's ECAP@gov.ky, or delivered to the Government Administration Building.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And trust and pray that you gather that our intent and our heart is truly to serve and to encourage us as a community to be, healthy and stronger as we unite together. We look at Alcohol Awareness Month from the National Drug Council, Mr. Simon Miller, his colleague, Mr. Evan McLean from the Bridge Foundation, Miss Emma Serena Powell. End of the day, all the SPs have the same thing in common, beautiful smile and a winning heart. Not true, guys? Amen, brother. No, man. But I say that partly to sort of bring a bit of lightness to what is otherwise a very serious and sobering subject. And that, as we shared, Evan, you said this weekend for some, despite the somberness and the expectation of come Easter Monday, the regard they still have Sunday, the resurrection, many of us are going to be in church service, but probably the night before and the day after, enjoying ourselves socially, put it that way. Yeah. Simon, Alcohol Awareness Month and the social acceptance of its use and probably almost its overuse. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, and my two colleagues here was mentioning about the progressiveness in the disease and the importance of people, having that care piece, Sir Sterling. I think that's something that we want people to appreciate, that it is a disease, and if you don't employ that care piece, it becomes very difficult even to start to begin to get this person to understand what's going on with them. And we know from our numbers, and Brother Ivan shared earlier, 1 in every 10, have some sort of addictive, behavior or struggle with something. Every household has not every household, every family has someone in it. And that's how widespread it is. That's how common it is.
Can I maybe ask, and I say this carefully, not thinking of anybody, but just generally speaking, there are many of us, when it comes to addiction, it may be food, for instance, right? It may be a particular food.
Why are you pointing at me?
Does he see chocolate written all on your forehead?
I'm empathizing with you, Boo. I'm empathizing. Hey, we all have our, in a way. But, all right, with that in mind, right? We see some of us, and let's look at alcohol in particular, right? And last year being a very long century, many of us saw the meme and laughed at it. I mean, I saw it, so everybody must have seen it. There's the lady outside with a glass of red wine, very tall glass of red wine, and she's out there, obviously very early, and she's saying to the guy, "You out for a jog? Running this early? Is someone chasing you?" And she has the wine swirling around, right? So many of us now, probably last year, but even before, would take a drink after work, a gin, a scotch, whatever it is that we drink, or with a meal, or it's, just at home, it's just this amount. and we probably think we can manage it. We feel that we're not alcoholics, we're social drinkers, we're this, we're that. Right? Then we point fingers at others who, well, a six-pack, is not enough, but one is too much, right? Or how it goes. So where is that back to, Serena's point? We hold that stigma against others, but when it comes to the person who, even drinking and driving, doesn't seem to be that, a big of a deal for some of us, even though the consequences are severe. We see what happened just recently in the Miami, Fort Lauderdale area. The young person, according to the police, 100 miles an hour, and look at the carnage that left in his wake. So where do we go? Simon? Serena? Ivan?
The stigma, no one ever grows up wanting to become an alcoholic. No one. And there's good evidence that shows people are born exposed to, and it's clear. Evidence show that it's something that's also developed. Because there are normal drinkers that develop alcoholism, and but it's the tendency typically is to the focus being on the problem child as opposed to the normal, if you will, whatever that might be, the child or the person that is acting and behaving in what we deem normal. But I do believe that in me sitting in judgment of, especially in expression of that judgment toward the child or the person with the problem, helps to perpetuate the issue as opposed to address the issue. And I think it's as important that the alcoholic or the abuser of alcohol is helped by way of information, equally so the family unit, whether the family unit is the immediate family, the work family, or the social family, whatever, the persons in that person's life, they too need help, and Al-Anon is one of those venues that is employed in assisting them. Sometimes it might just be the mere fact of assisting them in understanding it's okay for them to say no, just no, and hold steady to that. Not to mention that instead of me pointing out, you're drunk again, get out, a more reasonable approach, if you will, helpful approach, if you will, would be why don't you call someone that's in their circle of their help circle, and assist, encourage them to employ those type of behaviors as opposed to the condition that they're
If I may then ask, then, is that part of the challenge then, both from the person who may want help, may or may not have realized that there is an issue? Who do you call? I mean, not Ghostbusters, right? And when I was kind of late laughing, but right? But so you don't necessarily, as the individual, probably not mind, know who to call, perhaps able to call. You may have called before and been turned away, and then the person to whom the call is made, as Ivan is sharing, needs to be receptive that I'm not enabling, but I'm also not avoiding or discarding. Let me step up. That Al-Anon, I think, gives us, the supporting cast, the tools, as it does, AA for those. So
Al-Anon, in my opinion, Al-Anon is not meant for the active user,
No.
or it's meant for the
Support.
families
Right.
that, you know, and Al-Anon, what Al-Anon does is provide a better understanding of the individual that is struggling. But Ivan said something that really jumped out at me. You know, he says, you know, when you're dealing with a child or whether you're dealing with an adult, and in my opinion, like I said, I'm not a professional, but in my opinion, dealing with a substance abuser, whether it be alcohol or drugs or, you know, what pills or whatever, it is just as important that you acknowledge the good that those people are doing when they're doing good, and you know, there has to be consequences for when they're doing wrong. It's just like raising a child, you know, you have to have that same compassion and that same discipline and everything with that individual. But you know, while he was talking, I was also thinking, you know, about the amount of people on this little island that is so excited because it's Easter and I'm gonna have me a good time, you know. And there's people that can go out there and have a couple of drinks and then relax and, you know, behave appropriately and things like that. But there's the alcoholic that will have a real struggle with having just 2 or 3 drinks, you know. And in saying that, there's the persons that have made the choice to try to change their lives, you know, and 60% of them are totally terrified of the Easter weekend coming up because of the fact that holidays are really, really hard times for substance users, you know. And when I say substance, I don't mean just I know we're focusing more on alcohol, but all these other drugs have the same consequences through the action, you know what I mean? And there's so many people that are actually out there now. I can imagine that 60% of people in recovery alone are terrified of this weekend coming up because they know holidays are hard times. You know, you get together with family and you're trying your hardest, but there's that one individual, and you got a lot of support from your families, you know, but that one individual there that, they don't want to change and they don't want to see anybody else change because that's taking away their drinking buddy or whatever, you know, so they're going to be the one that's going to approach you, the individual that's in recovery, and try to encourage you to drink. So it's not an easy time for active or people that are no longer active, because once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. Once an addict, always an addict, you know. I'm an addict. The only difference between me and the individual out there that's using every day is I'm no longer active. You know, and that's that comes with its challenges. You know, I've been clean a little over 6 years now, but and it's very encouraging when you have that support there, and the more time you have in recovery, the simpler it becomes, because unlike the average individual out there, when we find this program of recovery, we get a 12-step program, which basically tells us step by step how to live our lives. And if we live our lives by those 12 steps, life becomes a lot simpler for us. We still have to live life on life terms, but we know a new way of living life on life terms, or we learn a new way of living life on life terms.
Something you just shared, and if I may, I draw great strength and inspiration, you know, from my friends who are in recovery. The resilience and the resolve, you know, whether it's 1 month sobriety or they're celebrating 27 years, to recognize that for them, as you said, you know, they live a life on life terms, but it's a day, and they still see themselves. And I think where we, as the wider community, who can, you know, not have to worry about that thing that we see as an addictive thing, not realize the strength and the resolve that people in recovery have. And you guys are amazing. I mean, it inspires me on a daily basis. We eat things, you know, I love chocolate, and we add liqueurs to it. We make cakes, and we add, you know, different drinks to it without appreciating what the consequence. And then we celebrate birthdays and anniversaries and holidays, Christmases, and we pour whatever we pour, right, without appreciating that there is. So maybe when we come back from the break, we get a community to appreciate that we're in this together. Samuel Miller, you know, together with Ivan McLean and Miss Emma Serena Powell. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Freedom, Cayman Rack.
That was all.
Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic.
Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Yes. Spring is in the air, and Easter is also around the corner. So too is Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy located in Countryside Shopping Village. Stocked with Easter gifts and treats and new spring apparel. Remember, they're always just around the corner, with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Get all of your Easter purchases at Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village. Make your life easy. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy. Wholesome values with modern conveniences.
This Easter Saturday, hop down to Bayshore Mall for Kirk Freeport's Easter at Bayshore family event. Join us on Saturday, April 3rd from 4 to 6 p.m. for refreshments, cotton candy, popcorn, balloons, face painting, steel drums, and more. There will even be supersized Easter bunnies and a kid's scavenger hunt with chocolate treats. Kirk Freeport's Easter at Bayshore family event is back. Saturday, April 3rd from 4 to 6 p.m. at Bayshore Mall in Georgetown. Free parking behind the mall. Visit kirkfreeport.com for more information.
The Tuesday and Thursday edition of The Business Buzz is brought to you by Cayman Medical Supplies, providing quality pharmaceuticals, medical supplies, and consumer products to healthcare providers, retailers, and ultimately the patients at a reasonable rate in a friendly, caring, and timely manner. Cayman Medical Supplies is located at number 93 Smith Road, Windward Center. Telephone 949-6211.
Hello, this is Mario Ebanks, your best choice for West Bay West. Please join me on Radio Cayman 89.9 on Thursday, 1st of April from 7 to 8 p.m. for a Let's Talk Policy with Mario with a panel of Caymanian subject experts. This is Mario Ebanks, your best choice for West Bay West.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us, and thanks too to all of the the organizations in the communities that continue to support, nurture, protect, provide each other in a time when we may be perhaps least expecting that sort of support. We just draw alongside. So Simon Miller and his colleague Ivan McLean from the National Drug Council and from the Bridge Foundation, Miss Emma Serena Powell. It is perhaps my endeavor sometimes to an attempt at humor to realize that it's a defensive mechanism, but when we're faced with something like this and appreciating that for some of us it's a challenge, right? I'm reminded that if you try to leave work and go home and find a path that doesn't take you across a bar, a restaurant, liquor store, or some place where you can find something, I'm told that's almost impossible. Almost impossible. Yeah. That shows you how, ubiquitous it seems. Yeah. But Simon, as we continue the discussion, Sabrina's points were, as always, on point.
Yeah, absolutely. And from what she shared, we get a fuller, we can appreciate the complexity, of addiction. Whether that's alcoholism or otherwise, and it shows the amount of effort that it takes, even if it's one individual within a family, and how that is far-reaching, and everyone plays a part of that person's sobriety, recovery, or even getting that person to even consider,
Could we ask about? I recognize that we got less than 9 minutes left in this discussion, and we could take all day and still not have sufficient time, because this is, some days not day by day, but it could be, hour by hour but the person who is, how do I say this, that it doesn't offend anybody, they can handle drink, right? We see them. They are friends and family, we know. They don't have a problem according to them. The problem is, they got two hands and one mouth, How do we help them? Can we help them to realize that maybe they need to not just exercise moderation, but at the very least do so. Sabrina?
That's really difficult, because we have a saying that says, our programs are for everyone that needs it, but you have to want it, and I know there's probably a lot of families out there, people listening to this show right now that are saying, well, I know this one has a problem and I would really like to help them, but the only thing you can really do for a person that's still struggling with the problem is to pray for them and be an example, make them see what a better life is and hope that they want that, but for the individuals that are out there that maybe your family member is struggling and or not even a family member, maybe a total stranger, but you see they reach out for help or you see they need help or whatever, there are choices that there are places that you can reach out to that will, if they're not able to help you, they will direct you to one of our sisters, or brothers, whatever these guys want to call it, because I don't want to be a sexist, you can reach out to one of the sister brother companies. A good place to start would be with Caribbean Haven, and their number is 947-9992. Call them up and talk to them, and they'll give you. They have the professionals, not people like me. They have the professionals over there that they can tell you, well, this individual, we think it's best if you take him to the hospital to detox, or we can work something out with you where we can bring the person in under WMU, which is withdrawal management, and then we can make a decision after that whether they should stay for treatment. But the person has to agree. I can't rescue you if you don't want to participate in your own rescue. Right. So the person has to acknowledge that they have a problem and want to do something about it.
Can I then ask, right, and as you sort of tell us more about, in the moments remaining, but I was, in preparing for the discussion, it wasn't intentional, but I'm glad that it happened. Person came into my space, we were chatting, and, what's on the program, tomorrow and today, whatever. And when I mentioned it, they said, well, what happens, right, when the person has tried recovery, may have been there for a short time, may have been there for a long time, fall off the wagon, as we, euphemistically term it, back on, back off, back on, and, year in, year out, 10, 15, 100 times. My answer then was, but get back on. Yeah. You want to stop trying on when you did. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So is that what you do?
Yes. Yeah. Keep on keeping on.
Yeah, the wheels would fall off of that wagon many times for some people, Some people are fortunate. It might only happen one time. That may be enough for them, But everybody that's an alcoholic has different circumstances and different situations that they've experienced that caused them to become that, because of choices or because of things they were deprived of, many different reasons. Right. But the individual, it's not prejudice. Alcoholism is not prejudice, and it doesn't choose you because you're poor or because you're black or because you're rich or because you're American or Jamaican or whatever. It's like prison, it'll take anybody. You know what I mean? And I think that each individual becomes that way because of different circumstances, but you have the individuals that will relapse 15, 20 times before they actually hit that bottom where they say, you know what, this time I'm going to give it my best, because a lot of people choose the program of recovery for different reasons, choose it for my kids, or my wife or my mother or whatever. But when you make a choice for recovery based on those things, it usually never works. Right. You have to want to do this for yourself.
So it's for everybody who needs it, but you have to want it.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Imperative.
Yeah, all right.
A mind made up is a battle won. Yeah. And I say that because I was in and out for 26 years. In and out. and I needed to be in recovery 2 years prior to my introduction to recovery. And, God spared my life to this point. Today, I'm 8 years, 9 months, 2 weeks, and 2 days clean. Yeah, but who's counting? Eh?
No,
just me. But it took me 26 years of that. I was a perpetual newcomer.
Yeah.
One more time, I'm trying to get clean one more time, and however, the truth is that there were people in my life through that I was more in than out.
Yeah.
I'm sober for 10 months, and then I'd go on a 2-day bender or a 3-day bender, or sober for 11 months, 9 months, 6 months, 2 days, and I'm on another bender. But in that process, there were people in recovery that were living a disciplined life. They were living through life issues and not drinking or drugging. They were talking about it. They were demonstrating it, and to say that there were examples over those years. And when the pain of remaining the same became greater than the fear to change, I got sober. And that sometimes it takes exactly that.
Yeah.
When the pain gets to that point, a mind's made up. And I've been sober ever since. And I mean, that includes tobacco.
Yeah.
The only thing, hey, coffee is legal, so
chocolate.
And so is chocolate. But sometimes for some of us, it takes a lot of pain to get us here, and when we get to that point of stead.
I like you sharing that, because nothing is a trial but a failure.
Absolutely.
Mom always say, right?
Yes,
sir.
And the ones that struggle with this tend to struggle with getting a program recovery and holding on to it for a longer time. It's been in my experience, the more educated people, because they have their mindset or this and that and the next thing, but the person that comes in and is really humble and open-minded, that's the key to recovery. You have to be open-minded, willing, and honest. And honesty comes with yourself, because I can lie to you, but I can't lie to myself, or I can't lie to God. And when I lie to someone else, it's making them more important in my life than me or God. And today in my life, God's first and then me, And when you look at it like that, that gives you a whole different perspective. But alcoholism and recovery, like everything else, depends on the individual's perspective of that whole situation.
All right, Serena, Ivan, thanks very much. Mr. Simon, maybe we invite you to wrap us up and not just the whole issue of alcohol awareness and addiction, but share with us as we close it out.
Well, I think you've heard from our conversation here that, there is hope, and there are facilities. There are trained people on this island, and, you can reach out to our website, www.ndc.ky. We have a list of all of our treatment providers, or give us a call, 949-9000. My colleague was mentioning earlier about the unity. And I tell you, working in this field is such a blessing. And we work together. If you call my office and, we will get you to where you need to get. Or if you call somebody at office and they need to get you to the NDC, they will. And that's how connected we are.
I appreciate that those listening would, be mindful that as we celebrate, however we do that, that there are those who may find it difficult. And as we partake of the meal and the fellowship, let's be conscious and considerate that someone else, unbeknownst to us, may be challenged, but nothing beats a try but a failure.
That's
so
right.
Keep it on, right?
Keep on.
It's a pleasure, Mr. Serena. Hopefully you come back more with us, huh?
Yeah, that depends on these guys.
All right, well, to our listeners, we're going to take the break for the news. When we come back, Guardians are live. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
You are listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have, on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice.
It is in the best interest of the people of these islands.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Shanda Gallego from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Government reported the results of 320 COVID-19 tests on Wednesday. All were negative. There are 736 people currently in isolation. So far, 30,476, that's 47% of the estimated population, have received at least one dose of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, with 29% having completed the 2-dose course. Turning to international news now, a Minneapolis court has been shown new police body cam footage of George Floyd pleading with officers during his arrest, saying, "I'm not a bad guy." The video shows police officer Derek Chauvin with his knee on Mr. Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes and Mr. Floyd begging not to be harmed. Mr. Chauvin, 45, who has since been fired from the police force, denies charges of murder and manslaughter. Mr. Floyd's death in 2020 sparked global protests over policing and racism. The World Health Organization, WHO, has criticized the rollout of coronavirus vaccines in Europe as being unacceptably slow. It also says the situation in the region is more worrying than it has been for several months. Vaccination campaigns in much of Europe have been hit by delays, and the number of infections is rising. And at least 43 children have been killed by armed forces in Myanmar since February's military coup, according to rights organization Save the Children. The group said the Southeast Asian country was in a nightmare situation, with the youngest known victim just 6 years old. A local monitoring group puts the overall death at 536. Those are your latest headlines here on Radio Cayman. I'm Shanda Gallego.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette, brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands.
In 1895, the ship the Prince Frederick wrecked on the south coast of Cayman Brac, carrying the young sailor Samuel Sidney Saunders. Saunders would later choose to remain in the sister islands, eventually marrying into a Caymanian family. Although not highly educated himself, Saunders was instrumental to the education system of the sister islands, having taught in both Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. He would start a private school in Little Cayman, was district constable of the sister islands, and opened a school in State Bay following the 1932 storm. In the 1930s, the school was attended by Captain Charles Kirkernel. Ironically, Captain Kirkernel's father attended Saunders School in Little Cayman a generation earlier.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette, brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And as we have a few minutes now to share with our friends from Guardians Are Live, and I will do a quick intro and ask Mr. Scott Ruby, to maybe set the stage for us. If together with Carl McKenzie, sort of the race director, break the record, and then from Cayman First, a good company, Lucas McField. Maybe just for our listeners, as we set the stage, a quick intro of each other. But Scott, we'll start with you first, man. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Sterling. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter, man. Blessed Easter indeed.
Thanks for having us. Been involved with Guardians Live from the get-go. I guess you could call me the original Guardian. But it's not really my event at all. It's the brainchild of Adonza Harrison, and she and I collaborated on her first marathon and got her to the finish line healthy and happy. And the feeling that she got from that was as impactful as it was to make her want to go forward and give that same feeling to other people. But she learned during that build up and doing the marathon that there's a lot that goes into it. And it might sound silly when you say you help people run or you teach people to run, but that's exactly what we do. So she's not only started with this where she's promoting healthy running and good form running, but this whole thing has just blossomed into this beautiful fitness awareness and just showing that anybody in any condition, any age, any affliction can come and be a part of an event and be around like-minded people. And it's really blossomed into something spectacular.
And we will, probably delve more into that in the event next weekend as well. But I think, as you shared, the importance of good form, perhaps our teachers way back when we had etiquette training, we talk about how we sit and how we present ourselves, perhaps even in terms of the posture. But equally, if you know what you're doing, you can run properly. It helps.
Yeah.
But building that positivity and that encouragement. From that, Ms. McKenzie, though, share with us as well a brief intro and share with you as you wish.
Hi, thanks for having us. My first introduction to Guardians was in 2017, where I was actually a runner, and Pat McCallum was my guardian, which helped me to learn how to pace myself to get the goals I wanted, and it's just blossomed from there each year. The second year, I was actually a 10K guardian. Then the third year was a 10K flag bearer guardian, and now this year I'm in charge of the Break the Record event, which is pretty exciting to get all the fast runners out that are at all the races each year and see who can beat who, and it's quite a fun competition now. It's blossomed into.
I think I as you mentioned, Miss Pat, I see her. I haven't seen her recently, but running. I mean, and she's an avid, runner, and that sort of nurturing environment, it translates into her own family being healthy. And those who play football, for instance, would probably run with the ball all 90 minutes and then dab into extra time. Ask us to run, quarter mile. Like, for what? Just, but it's maybe a purpose and having support, nurturing. But these things, Mr. McPhee, don't necessarily come to pass without community support, corporate support, and a concerted, contributed effort by the community. So good afternoon to you and welcome.
Good afternoon and thank you for having me. I see that we all came into Guardian from different areas, and for me it's from the sponsorship aspect of it. When I first started Cayman First, this was actually one of the first things that I worked on, so it's like a part of me, and Guardians Alive, Cayman First. We've been doing it for quite some time now, and as you said, it's very important. Cayman is in our name, so it's important to have an event such like this being sponsored by us. As Mrs. Scott said, it blossomed into something great. Each year we do something different or we add on something. So that's why we're very proud to be a part of an event just like this.
And with that, Scott, tell us about this particular year's event, the notion that, we can go and see the photos after, we can see other things, and there is an organizing component. It just doesn't happen in a vacuum and spontaneously, as much as Alonzo might let us believe that. But there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, there are a lot of moving parts, which I'm thankfully not involved in too deeply. But what we do end up having is a stellar 5K, 10K event for anybody. But then there's beach wellness. There's water, Aquafit. Yeah.
And then I think it is starting also, like you can walk a dog to a different category. Like kids to seniors, every age group is welcome to come and participate in whichever event they want.
You could, the day before Guardians Alive, you could lay there on your couch and write yourself a list of all the reasons that you're not going to go to this. No, I'm a beginner runner. I'm not going. Nope, can't use that one. I got to take care of my dog. Nope, can't use that one. I don't run. I'd rather go in the water. Can't use that one. And I get free breakfast. Can't use that one. So there's absolutely no valid reason that you could come up with to not go and enjoy this event. It is without a doubt one of the premier events of the year, of the athletic year.
I mean, just the omelet station alone.
Yeah. I think a lot of people come just to get their omelet at the end. Chef Shannon has all his volunteer chefs that come out and help him, and it's really.
When I was speaking to a friend some time back, and she was reminding us that there are some cultures, right? So this is more the Latin flair, as it were, and they have my perspective. This is the community parks where you would be challenged to walk a short distance and not find a space where there is some sort of outdoor exercise activity that you can do, and this is just part and parcel of what the downtown landscape looks like. And yet we live in Cayman, and in celebration for today's discussion, I decided, why not take a early morning walk? The water was cold, though. I must share, it's not summer yet, but it was nice, right? There were, as many as 4 people I saw today, including myself. That was like maybe 3 too many. But it was great. One had a dog, so that was probably okay. But the idea that we have these outdoor spaces, we have these places that we can go to. But the next weekend, we can take and harness the instruction that could propel us for the next 12 months. And then when we return, be that healthier 12 months hence.
You might also find yourself in a similar situation. So you're not that good of a runner, and this is something
Hey,
that
you
is,
supposed to tell
is
him about
hard.
that.
Huh?
You're supposed to tell
I
him about
wasn't
that.
even looking
Jeez.
at you. But so you find yourself along somebody else who's not having a very good run and all the rest of it, but you realize also that you're not alone in this. None of us are alone in any of this. We're all together, and we're only just a moment away from connectivity to one another. We just have to get that nudge to do that. It's also something to look right back in the face of COVID and said, not today. When you think like this, the only thing that stopped this event last year was COVID. And now you come back to this year and we're going to have it. A lot of places aren't having any events. And it's also celebrating something that is wellness and healthiness. When you think about what they were saying about COVID when it first started, that the main thing you really need to be in order to stay out of its way is healthy.
Sunshine, some health.
Everybody's standing in line for a vaccination, but no one's standing in line to get a gym membership. You know, it seems like that part, let's see, get a vaccination, I can do that. Go to the gym, I'll go get a vaccination. You know, it just doesn't work that way. It has to be two.
And I think too, you know, from that perspective, Ms. Carl, the idea that we see health and wellness as that thing we will get to when. And sadly often for many of us, and I say this as respectful as I can, there's some triggering event that occurs, health crisis in us or others, a realization of, wait a minute, you know, I can't. But if we recognize that the family that prays together, stays together, the family that exercises together, can enjoy life, you know.
Yeah, I think this event was a starting point for a lot of people, including myself, because when I joined, I was looking for somewhere to join, because I've always gone to gyms and stuff. You know, you never quite fit in. You're by yourself in the corner doing your own thing. And Adonza and Rhonda Kelly actually steered me towards a 7-mile strength training run program. And it just grew from there. Like, once I joined, now it's like, I don't think I'd ever leave, because that's my daily routine, my family that you work out with.
Thank you for sharing that too, because as we go into the break, you know, and when you come back, you know, perhaps Lucas, you can weigh in as well, the importance of drawing alongside hands as well as funds, right? But for me, the Boxing Association being there is this family. Nobody is there with any pretense. You're sweating, you're exhausted, you're exerting yourself, but you're laughing. And the push that you get, you know, sort of encourages you, nurtures you to come back the next day to see if you can push a little harder, safely, but harder. Having that instructor, having that supporting cast, and having that family,
that's
that fellowship.
Exactly how it is with CrossFit. It's, well, not CrossFit, 7-mile strength. It's everybody in our group, whether you run like a 20-minute mile or a 50-minute mile, nobody's differentiated.
Or you walk the mile.
Or walk the mile. You're all part of the group.
Before what Scott said.
Yeah. Nobody's ever left behind. Like, everybody waits till that last runner or walker is in. And
that's it.
They're not any different to
All I
the
ever
speed
ask
that
is
comes in.
Effort.
That's the only thing I ask. And if your best effort is your best effort, then the outcome of it is fine.
I got to E for effort, man.
That's it. That's all I want. Don't give me a lazy excuse. Give me effort every time.
And I think too, you know, we fail to appreciate the camaraderie, the fellowship, the friends that we meet, the lasting friendships.
If misery loves company, so does success. That's our mantra. If misery loves company, so does success.
I tell people this: don't alone at the top if you fail to bring someone along with you.
Amen.
And when we come back, you know, Lucas, join us, and for the community, we'll tell you more about next weekend, how you can not just observe but participate, and in that you can see how health and wellness go hand in hand to improve the body, the mind, and the spirit. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Cayman Turtle Conservation and Education Center invites you to join them on Sunday, 11th April for their first annual Turtle Crawl 5K walk and run. All funds raised from the event will support the conservation of green sea turtles in the Cayman Islands. So come on out and show your support. Learn more and register now at www.turtlecrawl.ky. Proudly sponsored by HSM, Rotary Central, Gatorade, and Radio Cayman.
Join me, Joey Hugh, and Frank Cornwall on Wednesday, April 7th at 7:30 p.m. at Kirk Market parking lot. We will tell you all about our plans for Georgetown North and Georgetown Central and how we will take the country forward. See you Wednesday, April 7th, Kirk Market. You won't want to miss this.
This is a paid advertisement by the Progressives.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. And thanks for joining us. And in the studio as we talk about Guardians of Life, we have Scott Ruby and Ms. Carl McKenzie from Cayman First together with Lucas McPhee. You know, funds and hands. Sometimes they go hand in funds and hands. Lucas, thank you and to corporate sponsors like Cayman First for recognizing the importance of not just money, but the physical presence of the person making a contribution.
Yes, monetary is very important, but with you have all the material and everything, but then no one's there to help. So it's very important that we have volunteers at events just like this. Cayman First employees, we go 10 to 15, we have a water stop, then we help out with the omelet station. So in efforts of the money, we also help out in hand, and then we also get other people in the community. So even if you're not so confident to participate in any of the many activities that are there, you can still come out and have a helping hand with anyone and with any activity that is going on.
Many hands make light work, especially when the hearts are joined together. And I think that's where the fun, the camaraderie comes in, but also the continued contribution to community. Right, Scott?
It is. Speaking of community, this last year we lost one of our key members of our community in Coach Derek Lerner, the precipitous behind Race Caribbean and 345 Athletic Club. And everything we're doing in this Guardians Alive will be in honor of Derek, to show how we felt about him. Anybody can say how they feel about somebody, but when you demonstrate it with your actions and put effort behind your sentiment, it bodes well for you. So we want to make sure that the community knows that we don't forget him, and his family knows that we have them in our hearts.
Yeah, and the charity this year then that they would donate to in his honor is the Cancer Society.
You know, this is, I remember interviewing you a couple of times, and the last time, you wouldn't know if you didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, Derek and I, same age, same fitness level, competing on a world scale, and for him to get taken down like that, it just shows the indiscriminacy of cancer, and that there's some things you can't do anything about, and you wind up getting it. But there is a lot of preconceived notions out there, and one of them being, you're just going to get it if you're going to get it, and that's not exactly so. It might be so, but why can't you just take care of yourself anyway, right? It's the ones that are trying to find excuses not to try to take care of themselves. Health is the gift that you give the people you love. Yeah. I might be a cantankerous old fart, but I'm going to be that all for a long time for my wife because I'm healthy. So that's the gift you give others.
And then when you share that, I think back to the sort of encouraging, nurturing spirit of course, Derek. I look at you and the story that you shared publicly about what we've shared, privately. Yeah. When we think of, well, for me, my extended new family at the boxing gym, for instance, the encouragement that you get there, the spirit that is sort of within, those four walls as you hit in the bags, as you see with my strength training, the same thing that you get, that you want people to be healthy because you are healthier or want to be healthier, and then one feeds from the other. And I think, Ms. Carl, that just makes the community better. I
think this is our way to, a lot of the people who've joined our group have all been paying it forward as well, and bringing in new people and encouraging other people, and it's kind of just a a chain reaction that they just
perpetual
keep
cycle of
encouraging.
health.
Yeah.
When I lost my weight and started running, I had to do it by trial and error.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to do it. I mean, don't eat a bag of cookies, all right? I figured that one out. I figured it out pretty quick. But running, I hurt myself over and over again. I didn't do it properly, and it was a lot of hit and miss. So we put together a program, and this is one of the programs Carol does, is how to get from the couch to even marathon. And it's in Adonzo is part of that as well. And her playing it forward this way shows that it's not just words, it's action, it's effort. I keep going back to that same word.
Well, I think, of all of the reasons, and there are many, I mean, almost countless, I started to try to list them as you were sharing just then. The main, forgive me if I have this at the top of the list, and it shouldn't be, the main reason is how to learn to do some of the things properly. I think back to playing football, we would train the ball, we would do drills, not a problem, for me personally. And I would run until I was just exhausted and spent, and you have to scoop me off the field. But the coach said, well, as a warm-up, take a run, just go for a mile. I'm like, really? No dog is chasing me. I don't have a ball. Why are we going to run?
That's true.
There was,
But it's something as simple as learning to breathe, which we had to do. Because when I first went, it's like I couldn't run a lap around CIS without stopping to walk and be like, dying.
Yeah.
And it is one of our exercises to learn how to breathe properly. And now it's like, to run a mile like that is...
That reminds me, there was a young friend who used to come to the gym with us, and I need to call my buddy, I think she works with him. She helped me with the running. Why are you holding your breath? You have to breathe. I'm like, well, we're just going to run a track. No, you have to breathe. If not, you're learning to breathe.
Anything worth doing is worth doing well.
Yeah. I mean, if the police had let George Floyd breathe, anyway, that'd be a different story. But again, partnership, community, the fellowship, the ease with which we can become healthy. But I think, Lucas, it's not something that will transpire without the hands and the funds. From the employees showing their public commitment to the wider community demonstrating their involvement. So you guys have to be commended, man. Came on first indeed.
Thank you.
Her message is something that needs to be heard.
Yeah.
And she can stand around and talk about it all she wants. They give it a megaphone.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. We so appreciate it.
That is amazing, man. I can borrow that megaphone sometime. But go ahead. I mean, for you, your colleagues going to be there on Saturday. I got Scott to tell us more because it's next Saturday. I mean, this week Easter weekend, but it's next Saturday, right?
It's Saturday, April 10th, and the Break the Record event will start at 5:30, which is the Speedy Runners, and then at 6 is the actual Guardians Alive event. So, if you want to come out at Public Beach, it's West Bay Road, Public Beach.
They play Public Beach. I know where it is, right?
Yeah.
The one that my cousin would say, well, the other side, they put that. So the Public Beach, and then 5-10K as well, right?
Yeah, the Break the Record will be a 5 and 10K, and then the Guardians Alive, you'll have the 2.5K for walkers, people that want a flat course, the 5K for walk runners, 10K just for runners, and everyone should be in within an hour and 30 minutes. And then we'll have the beach wellness on the beach as well. And then afterwards, there's going to be lots of natural, like coconut water, spray down, Adonzo's famous cooling spray, the omelette station, and all the sponsors will be there, with all their advertising and products, and it'll be a fun event.
It will be.
And then also the dog walking, let's not forget that.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
Walkie talk show host dog. So and that's the thing, I mean, like I just earlier, the lady was out with her dog way in the distance, but that was perhaps an excuse to take the dog out. The dog was saying excuse to drag the lady out, whatever it was. Right? You're out and you're not alone necessarily.
And actually too, it's free. It's totally free. So anybody who wants to sign up for the regular Guardians, you just go to Cayman Active, and if you want to participate in the Break the Record event, you can register on Race Caribbean or contact somebody from Guardians Alive, and we'll put you in.
All right. Best way to get in touch with Guardians, the email website?
Yes, she has a website, guardiansalive.com, or I think the email also is guardiansalive at Gmail. Yeah.
All right. And this is where I think, we can draw inspiration, and that person who may have struggled to, leave the house and walk to the car parked in the driveway, not being disparaging, can, in a very short order, be that person who's running a 5K, who's doing a half marathon, who is now doing a marathon. You know,
no doubt, absolutely no doubt. No matter who you are, you're so much closer than you think. It's just takes a little bit of freeing your mind. Just takes a little bit of faith, and it happens. It just
some effort, discipline, and support.
Find somebody to go with, and that helps. If it's the dog pulling you out of the house, great. If it's I got to go meet my friend, do it. Join a group. Get with like-minded people. The group effect really is great. So when you see all these folks there at Guardians, it doesn't matter who you are. You're all there for the same reason.
As we close our discussion, I'm going to be led by you, but I'm inclined to remind us individually, but all of us listening, that we hear about it. We probably have experienced it in the past. We probably know it because, you know, the jobs we do, we're physicians, we're coaches and so on. But exercise does the body and the mind really good. You feel better. You probably look better in many ways, you know. We just need to be mindful that by getting active, being healthier, your sense of self-esteem and self-worth and self-confidence improves. I mean, I've been accused of looking taller recently. That's not him.
You never know. Maybe you're standing up a little bit brighter.
You just might be.
No, that's true. Because when I first started with the group, I wasn't like at the speeds that I would say I do now. And I would be at the back of the class thinking, oh my God, these people are way faster than I am. I'll never be up there. And now it's like, I mean, I'm not one of the top ones, but
I've heard.
Just trying to encourage others now and pass it on.
Can I say then, and carefully, I look at Scott when I say this, you know, when we're teens, we may feel that we're energized. When we're in our 50s, we don't realize how much more we can be if we're healthy. Right? Can I put that with Scott?
Yeah. The 53-year-old me will run circles around the 23-year-old me.
That's the same for me too.
Hey. I'm not going to say how old I am. But thank God that I am as old as I am. Huh?
Yeah.
It's only as old as you feel.
A minute. Yeah.
Yep. All right. So next Saturday, the 10th of April.
Unless you're living on Pluto, you need to be there at Public Beach.
All right. And it's going to be a great day. And I thank, you, Mr. McField, your organization, Cayman First, your employees, your staff, your colleagues, and the work for Hands and Funds. Thanks very much, right?
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Let's go all together, others like you remind us that we can do much, once we make that effort. I think, Scott, you're a public icon, so, your wife,
my honor.
Your wife sings loudly with the microphone, championing who you are, man.
I appreciate it.
Oh, she's our lifesaver every Sunday.
All right, well, you guys have a blessed Easter. If I don't get a chance to chat with you before Saturday, maybe another resounding success and a community that values health, through its participation, its active engagement and appreciation that, we need to not only add life to our years, but, years to our life. Yes. We can do both through exercise. Okay. We're going to pause and take a break. We're expecting Dr. Frank McField, a political candidate, to join us in the studio shortly. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Now you'll never have to choose between two desserts at Subway. The new caramel brownie cookie is 2 treats in 1. Imagine sweet, gooey caramel with decadent chocolate chunks baked in brownie-flavored dough and topped with a light drizzle of caramel icing. And you have the new caramel brownie cookie, available at Subway. Complete your Subway sandwich, pizza, or salad with the delicious caramel brownie cookie or any other cookie flavor and dessert. Available at all Subway locations. Subway, eat fresh.
Yes. Spring is in the air, and Easter is also around the corner. So too is Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy located in Countryside Shopping Village. Stocked with Easter gifts and treats and new spring apparel. Remember, they're always just around the corner, with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Get all of your Easter purchases at Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village. Make your life easy. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy. Wholesome values with modern conveniences.
We are telling you ahead of time, giving you the heads up to get ready. The Black Tie Affair with a circus twist. Step right up. The annual gala hosted by Rotary Central for the Alex Panton Foundation. Saturday, May 29th. Marriott Beach Hotel Ballroom. Step right up. Support the Alex Panton Foundation, dedicated to serving and preserving young people through vulnerable times, mental health intervention, treatment, guidance, preserving life. The ambience of a circus affair. Tickets are limited, tickets are precious. Get your tickets from Rotary Central members. Go online to Rotary Central and the Alex Panton Foundation Facebook pages. Rotary Central and the Alex Panton Foundation. Rotary opens opportunity.
The following is a paid political commercial by prospect candidate Miss Sabrina Turner.
The community is invited to an Easter Family Fun Day on Monday, April 5th from 1 to 5 p.m. at number 33 Marina Drive in Prospect. That is Monday, April 5th from 1 to 5 p.m.
The proceeding was a paid political commercial by prospect candidate Miss Sabrina Turner.
For information that matters to you, the people. Hear from the government, the opposition, independents, and other experts on issues and solutions that affect you. For the record. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, tune into 89.9 and 93.9 FM from 7:30 to 9 a.m. for Cayman's new Straight Talk Morning Show. For the record.
I invite you to join me for the record. You are invited to be a part of this interesting and informative show. Embrace the opportunity to dialogue with your legislators, policymakers, and those charged with policy implementation.
For the record. Brought to you by Coca-Cola. Available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga Distributors. Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola. Speak up at the polls this general election, April 14th, 2021.
Do the right thing. Exercise your democratic right and vote. A public service announcement from your number one community station, Radio Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. In the studio, we have Dr. Frank McPhail, and he'll be with us until 2:15. Dr. Frank, many thanks for taking time out to share with us as part of the New Vision movement. As I see, you're reminded of the Public Eye program, as I referenced earlier. And as you talk about your political campaign, your accomplishments in the past, your sort of vision for the future, we really want to be engaged and informed, and hopefully through that we can find a way forward. So good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. And it's good that you mentioned the New Vision movement and that you mentioned the Public Eye program, because, most of my life I've been sort of dedicated to change and development and growth in human terms. And I was able to experience that in my own life, and I thought it would be relevant to allow people to experience the joy and satisfaction that comes from growth in oneself, not just in one's buildings, but in one's humanity, and the ability to express it and share it. Now, we have a lot of Christians in this country, and many people believe that Christianity is about themselves. It's not about sharing, and it's not about caring. And there are people that want change, or they want to preserve certain types of values, but they don't get involved in trying to assist people with preserving those values. So that's absentism. We're absent from the faith, or the faith is absent from us. So when we see this faith expressed in other people in other areas, we are surprised that it's being expressed. But you can express faith in many different ways. You can be a builder who expresses faith in the way you carry out your job. As a carpenter, as a fisherman, we see it in terms of Jesus and the fishermen. And we see this in terms of the story of Davies and Lazarus. And Davies is a very rich man, and he accumulates all this wealth, and Lazarus is a beggar. And we see that what is wrong there is not the accumulation of wealth. It's not poverty that is being condemned. It's not wealth that's being condemned. It's what's being condemned is the lack of ability to see the other person.
When you talk of faith, a word that sometimes, for me, comes to mind is integrity. We look at on almost a superficial level, we get in up and we go sit by your desk, that chair that is there. We have this faith, this conviction that that chair is going to hold our weight, that is safe. And then we look at the bridges and the roads, we look at the structural integrity. So
I wouldn't call that faith.
No, okay. But
I mean, that's a certain rational sort of calculation that those particular structures will hold. Faith is something that goes beyond that. It goes to the point when we have a sea that is not calm, that we believe that although that principle is that the sea should continue to be rough, faith is believing it will calm.
Or that we will make it safer through the rough seas.
Or we will make it through the rough seas. Or if we have a society that is in turmoil, or if we have a life that's in turmoil, or if we have struggles in achieving those particular sort of social, maybe political objectives to our society, eventually, whether or not you're here or not, whether or not I'm here or not, it will be realized what I had realized. So although what I had realized and what I had invested in this society might not be realized by people to the extent where they will take my opinion and my intellectual authority, that eventually it will be scripted. It will be scripture in that sense that it becomes authority after you depart.
So in that, what I was maybe hoping to understand for my own edification, can a person without integrity, exhibit faith?
Well, I don't think so. And but we have people who play with languages and they define it in ways that is convenient to them. Because we perceive things the way that we want to perceive them, but there is a reality that is beyond our perception. And that is what I always try to strive to achieve. For instance, when I came back here, I said with integrity, intellectual integrity, because that's what I had learned, that the British educational system had made West Indian kids or kids from the Caribbean, they had made them educationally subnormal. They had defined them as educationally subnormal because obviously there was a cultural
Speaking of Dr. Frank McPhail, he is on air, and for those who are joining us, Dr. Frank will be with us until 2:15 or so, and I invite you to call and share your thoughts. But use our toll-free line, see that working, or call us otherwise. But Dr. Frank,
try not to really to structure it so that people can actually follow the flow.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. What I'm trying to say here is that what I try to do with regards to showing people what education or pedagogy is all about, it has to do with sociology, the sociology of learning, the sociology of teaching, because what we teach and how we teach is important, and who we are teaching is also important. So if you've got people who refuse to take into account who they're teaching or what they're teaching, then you're going to have problems in your educational system. Now, that was discovered many years ago, and so I came to write a thesis on what happens when the children fail. What happens when the children fail is the process of ghettoization of those children and social exclusion, which is a lot of what's going on in this country over the last 40-something years that I've seen through my own observation and participation.
So as I listen to you and I look, as you shared, almost 50 years ago when you first returned, relative to the social ills that could befall us because of what we were ignoring, and I fast forward to today, this week, last week, and even last year.
We're still making the same mistakes.
Yeah,
we're still in denial.
Right. We're hearing reports, for instance, that people who were perhaps either because they were ill-informed, perhaps they were under the influence of some substance, or they were just completely maybe not quite sure what was transpiring, being warned for. I thought the commissioner said prostitution, but I think he meant prosecution, right? for being out outside the curfew hours, right? I had a struggle to figure out which word he was saying one time, and now being sentenced to 30, 40, 50 days in jail, almost a year, 6 months later, for breaking curfew. Is that making the society better? The increased cost of incarceration?
Well, I mean, that's I don't know, Dwayne. I mean, that's a little bit of out of my sort of sphere of trying to actually make more precise.
Well, let's get to that then.
This point, because I know that many times we use fear and intimidation, and we treat that as law and law, and keeping an orderly society. But many times that can be criminalizing people.
Yeah.
And so that whole notion of using fear rather than using socialization, proper socialization to get compliance is what I have always opposed. When we put people in prison, we're spending so much money, but if we would to support them in kindergartens from the very beginning, we'd spend less money. And I will tell you about some of the figures very soon. It's astonishing the money that we will spend without question to intimidate people, to incarcerate people, and to sentence them for committing wrongs as a result of the failures that we have created in their lives simply because they did not come from the kind of parental system and structure that was able to give them the early childhood education, the early childhood socialization that would have prepared their journey towards primary, high school, and towards college in a professional career. Now, it is important that we do not create so much waste in our human beings that we have to spend so much money to take care of what we consider to be trash.
As I listen to you, unfortunately, when we think of health, we hear prevention is better than cure. But when we look at what you're sharing, we understand in education the early years are important. But then if a society, whether it's Cayman or another place, spends $100,000 on a prisoner versus $10,000 on a child's education, something is, you're saying, fundamentally wrong.
What I think is fundamentally wrong is that when you have a democratic system, people need to participate, but to participate truly in a democracy, you have to have a bit of education. You have to be able to understand the complex issues and challenges that exist in your society at that particular time. So you don't give the kids civic education in the schools. We don't give them access to their culture and their identity. And normally when we talk about culture and identity, we're talking about some fantasy, something that we make up in our heads. Nothing that has been under the microscope and examined and decided whether or not that's true or not. Like how the boat went ashore there and the King George promised that we would never pay any taxes. We didn't pay taxes because we were too poor to pay any taxes. There was nothing to extract from us. There was not even enough for us, so there was no surplus for the King of England. And they didn't create us, that's colony anyway.
Right. Well, even that word alone. Dr. Frank, we have a short break to take. We'll come back. We'll continue our discussion with political candidate, Dr. Frank McPhail. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
The following is a paid political message from Dr. Frank McPhail, Georgetown candidate East.
But Dr. Frank cares. Yes, he cares. Yes, he cares. For his people. Yeah. Dr. Frank cares. Yes, he cares. Yes, he cares. For his nation.
The proceeding was a paid political message from Dr. Frank McPhail, Georgetown candidate East.
Things just got a bit hotter on Island. Come in today and order the new spicy Korean subs at Subway. They're sweet, spicy, and especially satisfying. Stop in and try the pulled pork with spicy Korean sauce, or the chicken with spicy Korean sauce. And you can message WhatsApp at 929-4658. Order online or use Let's Eat or the Bento app. The spicy Korean subs at Subway in 2 flavors, extra saucy and extra spicy. Subway, Eat fresh.
Why work with a Sariba agent? We can tell you that those letters represent a proven understanding of the real estate market in the Cayman Islands. But it also means so much more than that. Our trained Sariba agents are committed to ethics, integrity, and excellence of practice. It's all about confidence, knowing you are working with a qualified Sariba agent. As members of Sariba, your trust is our promise. To find a Sariba agent today or to search thousands of listings, visit Sariba.com. Sariba, the mark of excellence in real estate.
We are in an age of exponential change. The world is experiencing a technology boom where innovation is at an all-time high. What does this mean for small island nations? How can we adapt to the emerging digital revolution? Join 900 delegates from 3 Caribbean countries at one regional event to tackle the theme, Global Digital Disruption, Threat or Opportunity. The virtual RF Economic Outlook Conference happens on May 6th. Register today at rfeoc.com.
Pastors Garrett and Joseph Haylock and the congregations of the Church of God at Breakers and West Bay would like to invite you to revival services in Breakers from Wednesday, March 31st to Thursday, April 1st at 7:30 p.m. On April 2nd, join us for our Good Friday all-day fellowship. Morning service will begin at 10:30, afternoon service at 2 o'clock, and evangelistic service will begin at 5. Lunch will be served after the morning service. For transportation, call 916-1345, 916-6367, or 923-1401. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28.
Workforce Opportunities and Residency Cayman advises holders of permanent residency PR facilities to take immediate steps to settle any outstanding fees to avoid potential loss of this facility. Fees more than 90 days past due date should be paid immediately. Payments can be made via debit or credit cards, online payment using the Work Payment Portal, or via checks delivered to the Apollo House West Office on Mary Street. For PR holders needing further assistance, call Work Customer Care at 945-9672.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us in the studio as part of a paid political statement. Segment, we have candidate for Georgetown East, Dr. Frank McField.
Number 4 on the ballot page.
Right. Yes, sir. And we will take phone calls in a bit. Dr. Frank will be with us until, after 2.
Time really flies when you
It does. Yeah, boy. But Dr. Frank, as I was listening to you, and I say this not to be disparaging, but certainly not without apology, it would have seemed that as a society, for us to advance, we need to exhibit a greater sense of respect for self so that we can develop with respect for others.
Yeah, well, I mean, we know that. Most people will not want to say it out loud, but they might think it when they're insulted, when they're bypassed. And as I said, I have been denied the possibility to earn a living in this country as a sociologist, which we really need. Because until we understand that many of our problems begin in our homes, and that we need to understand why they begin in our homes, because it's not just the people in the homes that begun the problem. These are generational problems, and we will not face the truth. And the truth is the only thing that can set us free, and there's no reason why we shouldn't be free. So I'm saying all we do is say the same things, repeat the same things, and do completely opposite. Now, there's no way that people can tell me that even in the present election cycle, that the young people who are putting themselves forward as leaders are not practicing the same. They say they respect me. They say that I have done. but they do not ask me, they do not encourage me to believe that I should be a part of the decision-making process or that I have the key to be able to solve many of the problems if people would listen to me, and I would be able to have the personnel which I need. Education, education, education is the key. But what is education? Buildings? How expensive the buildings are? How ridiculous is that? That tells you you're going in the wrong direction because you're spending money on people. You're not training one teacher. You're not getting one teacher who wants to sacrifice her life or give her life or improve her life by being a teacher or him. Now, that act tells you a question that it's a human resource issue. And the human resource issues that we have in the country as a whole has to do with sociology. You need a sociologist in the house to begin to help you to solve these problems. Not an accountant, not an attorney at law, somebody who is really caring about people and willing to share their lives with them. We have to be very careful about what we do in this election when we make this great change and the position in which we're going to put people in terms of leadership. Because I know how to solve an economic problem for my company so that it could make money, it doesn't necessarily mean that I know how to solve an education and sociological challenge for my country so that my country can remain stable or balanced in terms of the population and in terms of the mixture of the nationalities. But when people go around bragging and say, oh, we got 160 or 200 nationalities in Cayman Islands, how great. Hey, it's like that's like the Tower of Babel. It's confusion. So don't brag about the fact that many people are ignorant to the things that have been pushed on us over the last 40 years in terms of telling us that this is a miracle. And it was a miracle, yes, in a way. But we made a mess of it because we didn't understand it, because that thing which feeds you can also kill you if you don't get rid of some of the waste. We need to get rid of some of the waste in terms of the opinions, in terms of the feelings, and in terms of the way people are approaching this thing. Because when you're saying more, but you're not actually making space for rationality and planning. So that you have to think about where you're going forward. Because if it's only about this generation and not about a few generations to come, what's Joshua going to do? I'm thinking about my son Joshua.
Yeah.
So we need to think future and not just about today.
As you reference that, Dr. Frank, you're speaking to Dr. Frank McPhail, candidate for Georgetown East in the upcoming election on April the 14th. Joshua.
Number 4 on the ballot.
Number 4 on the ballot for Georgetown East. Joshua, right, in the Bible, and the comment with like giants in our own eyes, right? Is it that within the Cayman psyche, we talk about the resolve and the resilience of our people. We talk about the willingness of our ancestors to serve country and to make that, that sacrifice.
Yes.
But today's generation...
No, they don't want to sacrifice.
Yeah, or today. Not even the generation today, but the generation, the people now, alive now.
Yeah, well, but you see, look, Joshua's mother is German. I studied in Bremen, Germany, but things got hard for me, and they pressed me to the extent I had to escape this country in 1992 with $100 in my pocket, and I went there, and thank God I met her through a friend of mine that was a lawyer at that time, and he sort of introduced us, and so I got to know Christiana at that particular time. And so Joshua came much later, but into our lives, because I'd asked God before I ran from Cayman, that if I had a son, because it didn't look like anything would happen, that I would call him Joshua. And so that's a prophecy. That's what I'm about. I'm about knowing that you might not be able to you might not even be able to complete what you set out to do in one generation. And that's why we have generations. Because the old that might be not perfect enough to go forward, the new comes. And the Jews actually understand this in the story of Moses and Joshua very well, because if the old is not removed, the young will never have a possibility to bring forth fresh fruits and carry on. Philosophy is very important in understanding life and how life has been organized and how it will continue to be organized. There are certain things that make up a society, and one of the things that make up a society is the person's ability to think rationally and to be able to specifically sort of direct rational types of actions and to produce behaviors that are in accordance with the direction in which we are progressing.
Right. Dr. Frank, we do have a call online as we go to our news break. Let's quickly go to our phones. Good afternoon. We're speaking to political candidate for Georgetown East, Dr. Frank McPhail. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dwayne.
Afternoon, my friend. How are you today?
I'm all right, and good afternoon to Dr. Frank.
Good afternoon, sir.
I will not waste your expensive time. I will quickly, first I want to say a short thing. I always respect the intelligent, the high educated man, Dr. Frank McPhail, who is a very intelligent man, have good ideas. His heart for the people of this country, and I always respect him for that. I have two questions here. There is a very big concern about environment issue in Georgetown East, and from the residents, and these issues, what is your view to address it? The second question, we have a lot of young people who've been in Caymanians who've been arrested for a spliff of weed or a simple thing and get records in their and they can't get a job because of this simple mistake they done, and they can't get a work, they can't get a job, and they get in more troubles. What is, from the view of Dr. Frank, the solution for those people? What is the solution for the prison? And the last thing, the issue of education, university, college. Are you in support of opening a big university here, give degrees like bachelor, master, and doctorate degrees in Cayman? Thank you, and I wish you the best in this election, and I think you are the best candidate in that area. And I hope people look at your intelligence, your education, your ideas, and they don't judge people.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for that, Mr.
Well, you know, I often listen to the man people refer to as a Jordanian. I don't actually refer to them as that because, you know, immediately when you see that people are concerned and agitated about issues, then you have to ask the question, why? So his religion and actually his understanding of the Bible is different from quite a lot of people. And his understanding means that he must become aware and stay aware in regards to any kind of moral deficit in himself and what he might see in other people and his society. So he has a responsibility not only to correct his own actions, but to help correct the actions of other people. Now, there are religions that have been considered extreme, like Christianity during the Crusades and different things like that, or during colonialism and periods like that. But the whole doctrine or ideology or theology is about perfection and how to achieve it and maintain it, not just in the individual, but in the society as a whole. If we do not have any kind of ideology or morality or values that we share as a whole, we will never be able to operate as a whole society. And wholeness is important for wellness. We talk about that in psychology today, and we practice it, but we do not want to practice it in the society, but it's applicable to the society as well. And this is what we have to understand that we lack. We're not holistic in terms of the way we view ourselves, perceive ourselves. We say we're Caymanians, but at the end, everybody want to do their own thing and define themselves. But that's what the educational system is about, to produce a product at the end of the day that allows people to interact in such a way that it is efficient.
Right. Okay, with that, Dr. Frank, perhaps shared values is something we should, a shared vision. All right, when we come back from the news break, we'll continue the discussion. We want to hear more from you. Tell us about your campaign. Share as you wish. Dr. Frank McFeel will join us after the break. Stay tuned.
Continuing the Caymanian tradition.
Let Cora keep my ground so clean.
The heart and soul of the Cayman people. Thank you for keeping the culture alive.
There's wisdom news every day. From East End to Georgetown, down into West Bay.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have, on the island.
Your voice, your choice.
It is in the best interest of the people of these islands.
Local, regional, international. This is Headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Shanda Gallego from Radio Cayman's newsroom. The Health Services Authority will be relocating majority of its specialist services to the Smith Road Center effective Monday, April 12th. Orthopedic, dermatology, rheumatology, and pediatric services will remain at clinic's current location at the Cayman Islands Hospital. The new specialist clinic location will be modern, comfortable, and will also provide additional clinical services, including neurology, complementary and alternative medicine, chiropractic, and neurosurgery. The clinic's telephone numbers will remain the same. Turning to regional news now, 4 people, including a child, were killed in a mass shooting at an office complex in Orange, California on Wednesday. A police official said at least 20 mass shootings have taken place in the 2 weeks since the Metro Atlanta spa attacks left 8 dead. A 5th victim was wounded and taken to the local hospital in critical condition, an Orange Police Department spokesperson said at a news conference. Police responded to a call of shots fired around 5:30 p.m. and encountered gunshots when they arrived on the scene. Officers engaged the suspect and an officer-involved shooting did occur. The suspect was taken to the hospital after sustaining a gunshot wound. It's unclear if the suspect's injury was self-inflicted. The ongoing Phase 3 clinical trial of Pfizer-BioNTech's coronavirus vaccine confirms its protection lasts at least 6 months after the second dose, the companies said Thursday. The question of how long vaccine protection lasts can only be answered once enough time has passed, and while 6 months of protection is a modest target, it's longer than previously known. The study is continuing, and future updates may reveal more about how long and how strong the protection is. And New York this week became the largest state to legalize recreational cannabis, and in doing so, it's poised to become one of the nation's largest markets. Another multi-billion-dollar business opportunity would be lucrative for cannabis businesses, but industry members and insiders also are viewing the Empire State in a broader light. They think that having a prominent state such as New York enact legislation could ultimately influence cannabis' future trajectory nationally and potentially help it shed its federal illicit status. Those are your latest headlines here on Radio Cayman. I'm Shanda Gallego.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. Dr. Frank McFeel, Georgetown East, is our guest in studio. As you were sharing, sir, I mean, from not just a former parliamentarian and cabinet minister to a trained sociologist and playwright and social commentator and the like, we are in an interesting space in our history in the world, but in particular in Cayman, where, from what you were sharing, it seems that maybe we're not at a crossroads anymore. Maybe we've turned the corner and going down the wrong road. If so, can we correct that, reverse, and change paths?
We turned the crossroads and we're going down the wrong road, and we're going to hell. if people don't sort of repent, and repent meaning to change your ways, to alter your course, you know. But there are people so as my daddy used to say, so hell-bent on going to hell, that it's very hard to persuade them even when you get in their way.
Is it going to hell in a handbasket? But
no, people are stubborn, and we are all committed by our own engagement with ourselves, and so it's not easy, but it can be done. We can gently move people in through reason, through discourse, and through persuasion. But it's very hard for a person to listen to something that they object to. It's very hard for some people to listen to a conversation that they do not control. And so as a result of that, we lose a lot in our society because we have people with very shallow egos in many cases that don't want anything to go beyond them. And so when you're trying to pull everything back to you, rather than to pull yourself, let that thing pull you along with it. And so we evolve through that particular type of thing. Now, this is the reason why I always go back to the idea of why is it important for early childhood education. And I notice that most Caymanian people, most of us, we like to talk, but it's hard to listen. But if some people find something interesting to listen to, it absorbs them, and they listen. And when they come out, they're enriched. So it's about always finding the key, because I go to church and I see how people listen. And so I'm saying, why can't you then make what it is that you're teaching my child as interesting as the preacher makes what he's preaching? Or maybe because he preached so many times to them that they understand it. No, I don't know. But I know there's certain things that stimulate you, and I know that the gospel does. So we have to understand the themes of what we're teaching. What we're teaching is important. So I'm saying, look at the things that you're teaching. Look at how you teach. Are you teaching in the style of waking people up and making people feel good about themselves that we preach or teach in the church? You're coming with a stand-back style, and you're coming with a thick upper lip, and you're coming with an attitude of no emotion and no thing to teach kids in the Caribbean, and where there's sun and where there's movement and where there's dance and where there's these different types of things. So in the school itself is where the cultural conflict or conflict takes place, and it's carried out there, and we don't want to accept it.
So as I listen to you, then I'm realizing that we who live in occupied space and call this home need to be culturally conscious of the consequences of our actions and inactions.
Right.
But Dr. Frank, in this country, I notice that increasingly, for me anyway, maybe it's a desire to answer the calling. It certainly is, on my part, almost a deliberate attempt to run away from it, because it's not always easy.
Yeah, it's not easy to stay with it, that's for sure.
We look at what is happening. I say publicly, in tribute to our maritime heritage, that a rising tide floats all ships. I champion the need for unity and solidarity, and in our differences we're more alike than we are disalike. We can be unified. But we go to the polls shortly. There is a growing expectation that our voter turnout will be lower because of people's perceived fears and concerns and whatever. The level of, again, chastise me publicly if I use the word improperly or it's misplaced in some way. The conditioning that our society has undergone in recent times. You look at people and you see how quickly, as they come to embrace you, they pull back. Right? Because we were conditioned. You look at people's reluctance to socialize.
Yeah.
You look at people who, despite their academic sort of attainment, their financial wherewithal, there is a growing fear in them.
The fear of others that they perceive to be different. And they are perceiving them to be different. It's not that they're different, but that's what prejudice means. because part of the socialization and the education of our own people are to develop certain prejudices towards people, for instance, because you don't have the nice car like they have, or you don't live in the same gated community that they say. So what would the material development is causing is, rather than causing the realization of Caymanian potentiality, it's the realization of the compartmentalization of the Caymanian and the Caymanian society.
But as I listen to you, though, we don't even, in my mind, we should celebrate the accomplishments.
Well,
of the collective, right?
Well, I will tell you, the people, I am not getting support from people who went abroad and studied in the middle class and should know better and should know that I'm not a danger to this society, and at my age, what kind of danger I'm going to be. Really. The only danger I can be is by shooting my language fast enough to make them afraid of me and say, well, we don't want to vote for him because he's too educated. But the point that I'm saying is that they don't even come back as accountants, and they don't even come back as lawyers and get involved in their society, because they're the necessary thread to hold the society together, not by locking themselves off in gated communities and large halls and special parties and special things. So they have failed, many of them that have received education from the government of this country.
Right.
That they have not come back and contributed what they were supposed to come back and contribute. They have come back and benefited from the material development, but they have put nothing back into the social structure and the social fabric that holds society together.
So then it would appear from what you're sharing, I could infer that not only are we failing to celebrate the success of our wider community, but even to recognize the individual effort, the individual.
No, it's not about recognizing the individual effort. It's to recognize the individual's responsibility to the society. That without these individuals replacing themselves, so there's no regeneration. No regeneration of that which was less than them.
So then what do we do? Because we're going to go to the polls. We're going to have to select.
You're going to select people like myself who have shown my care, who have shown my leadership abilities by being able to persistently analyze and say, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. You're not going to get the result from this. This is what society needs, just like your body. Your society is a body. And if the parts are not working in the body, you can't expect a good result at the end of the day. Although you look healthy, you're going to die. Because the parts are not functioning together.
So we're looking superficially. There's some style but no substance.
We're asking questions superficially most of the times because people have already predetermined what type of answer we should have, because if we have a different answer than they want to hear, they get upset with us. You get fired from the radio station, you get fired from your job, like I got fired so many times, like from writing a letter as a clerk at the dump, because that's all I could get with a PhD here, fired for writing a letter saying we need a Bill of Rights. And that is something that I champion. I got fired for saying early childhood education is the key. In 1979, I got fired. We have people coming on the stage today and uttering these things. They don't look and say, well, Dr. Frank said this or Dr. Frank said that. Let us include him in the government. No, they want to exclude me from the government. They meet behind closed doors in the boardrooms, and we don't know whose interest they're serving, because they will not organize so that they can be vetted by the people and monitored by the people. They're only going to be monitored by the corporation bosses, because they're not accountable to anybody besides themselves. I can be held publicly accountable because I have tried to organize. I have tried to teach publicly with my Public Eye program for 10 years. I have formed a union. We are worried about the cost of living, yet we do not want to sit down and rationally discuss how that could be done. Somebody come and give us an idea and we believe that right away. Test the ideas. And that's what the pre-election campaign should be about. And that's why we need political parties, in a sense, not the PPM, of course, but democratic political parties and not social clubs, because the PPM really is basically the extension of a social club.
Dr. Frank McField, candidate for Georgetown East. Now, as we have, gone to DJ Lynn, just about 5 minutes or so left in our discussion.
Yeah, well,
share with us more about your vision.
I mean, my vision really basic is like, which is very hard to get in here. And I mean, people see my billboard, they see that they're innovative, they see they're talking about plastic, I'm concerned about dogs, I'm concerned about handicaps. I'm saying that a society has to be holistic and inclusive, and we all have to do this together. Every interest have to be put in the pot, and we have to decide how we're going to serve this thing out at the end of the day. And that is why we elect a political director, because we couldn't do it all with the same voice. So we invest our voice in people. I came to Georgetown East because I was called there because of the neglect of the voting people in at least the area of Georgetown, where Randike is in those particular areas that have suffered from flooding. We have people who are in Southtown who are worried about the ecology and the destruction of the mangroves. We know that Southtown was built up where those homes are now as a result of dredging the mangrove. And some people who are involved in development would like those people to have a better view of what took place in this country that they might have just come in now. So if we open the debate and we really became inclusive in the debate rather than coming to the table and say, this is what I want and this is what I want, we will sit down and we'll have an open dialogue and we'll have a broad enough perspective for us to be able to come out with solutions that will embrace everybody. But my concern is with education. I do not believe that culture should have been separated from education. It needs to be connected to education. You have to have people who understand culture if they're in culture, and you have to have people who understand education if they're in education. And that is what is needed in this country more than anything else, and that is what I'm fighting for, to become the next Minister of Culture and Education.
All right. Dr. Frank, we do have a caller. Just a few minutes left in our discussion. But good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
What a deep discussion we got going on there.
Always.
I enjoy it. And I think there needs to be more of that, and one of the principles is just when express education. And I think that is so paramount to any progress that we're going to make here in education on all levels. But I think since we're kind of talking a lot about heritage and culture and what we understand the Caymanian ethos is or was and is being buried, but I think that has to be a paramount concern going forward if we're not going to just slide the sheets out and let her drift with the wind.
Yep, Cap. That's exactly it. Yep, Cap.
You're right, man. Yeah. All right.
Great sailor. Yeah. And if you got 1 minute I think that what people don't understand is that when they say, well, this is the immediate issue. Well, the immediate issue is important, but if it doesn't have a framework, if it doesn't have a vessel to sail in, it's going to just drift to sea. Nobody's going to be able to do anything about it. And too many issues that people pack up during elections, and politicians say, yeah, we're going to do something about that, and yeah, we're going to do something about it. They do nothing about anything. We need to force them into a point to say, all of these ideas that you have, we can collate, but all ideas are interrelated. The cost of living in this country is related also to the cost of importation, and how the government earns is related to the number of work permits, and how the government earns is related to the damage in the environment. So the way in terms our revenue stream is set up, we could get a lot more money from the financial service industry if we would focus on why we have a right to benefit from that, and not just lawyers like Mr. Panton, Wayne Panton, who could retire with $20 million at a young age, when a person who is working in this country can't make that amount of money in their entire lives, in their sons' lives. The way in which wealth is distributed in this country does not pay any attention to the lower working people. And that's the reason why some people don't want to work, because they don't feel that the remuneration, what they get from it at the end of the day, is worth it. It's better to put your hands out and hold your hands out. And we can criticize them for that, but they are being socialized to expect that, because people want to bring work permit holders in, because government makes work money from that. The government itself has been carrying out policies that are adverse to Caymanian people being able to survive. Our own government that people continuously vote for create the conditions for their disenfranchisement, for their impoverishment, and for their undereducation and imprisonment. The government policies that are never thought out is what's happening now.
All right. And to the caller, if you want to stay on talk after the break, we can. But Dr. Frank, we're just about up with this segment. Any final thoughts? Dr. Frank McPhail, candidate for Georgetown East. Closing thoughts, sir.
Well, I would like people to. I'm having a meeting at the roundabout there between the Thomas Russell and the Linford Pearson Highway, the big open lot across from the horse place where Mike has signed the injunction to prevent government from taking some of that land or buying some of that land to invest in the roads and develop the roads where we wouldn't have that congestion there today. Now, I'm saying that I would like to have a meeting there, and I would like to have people come. If they're not voting in Georgetown East, come anyway. Encourage people to come to support me, because I'm not necessarily getting the support of the people who want not there to be changes, but there need to be changes in your leadership. You need people who have the ability to care. You need people like myself who not only have the ability to care, but the ability to have a vision. And I've always been talking about the vision, and I've always spent my time and my little money trying to educate people and not trying to have things just for myself. I came in this world to share, and I'll go out sharing. And I believe in God, and I believe that God has appointed me to be able at this particular time to share this new vision with the Cayman Islands people, so that He has founded upon the seas and established it upon the floods, that it will not be wasted. That our gift from our ancestors, my father's ancestors too, and yours will not go wasted upon the seas and be washed away with the floods, but it will be preserved in your children and in future generations. But you have to care. You have to care about your future just like you care about your present, or even more. You have to sacrifice, you have to listen, you have to learn, you have to rebuild. The struggle is worthwhile, but it has to begin before it can come to an end. On the 4th of April, let the struggle begin by voting for number 4 in the District of Georgetown East, so that we can begin to rebuild our country and our lives for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, candidate number 4, Georgetown East, Dr. Frank McPhail. We're going to pause and take a short break, and when we come back, we invite you to join us as we wrap it up.
The following is a paid political message from Dr. Frank McPhail, Georgetown candidate East.
But Dr. Frank cares. Yes, he cares. Yes, he cares. For his people. Yeah. Dr. Frank cares. Yes, he cares. Yes, he cares. For his nation.
The proceeding was a paid political message from Dr. Frank McPhail, Georgetown candidate East.
Yes. Spring is in the air, and Easter is also around the corner. So too is Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy located in Countryside Shopping Village. Stocked with Easter gifts and treats and new spring apparel. Remember, they're always just around the corner, with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Get all of your Easter purchases at Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village. Make your life easy. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy. Wholesome values with modern conveniences.
Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your sister islands, the ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom, the land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your sister islands.
Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
We are in an age of exponential change. The world is experiencing a technology boom where innovation is at an all-time high. What does this mean for small island nations? How can we adapt to the emerging digital revolution? Join 900 delegates from 3 Caribbean countries at one regional event to tackle the theme, Global Digital Disruption, Threat or Opportunity. The virtual RF Economic Outlook Conference happens on May 6th. Register today at rfeoc.com.
That thing we've been saying for 64 years? Ignore it. Eat the KFC wings, drink the KFC gravy, fill up on fries. Just please forget the thing we normally suggest. You know, that thing you used to do with your tongue after finishing a delicious piece of our KFC chicken. We get it. It's not easy. There's a reason why it's been our slogan for over half a century. But the world's drastically changed of late, and as soon as we can embrace the change, the sooner we can all get back to doing what we do best. KFC. It's good.
The Department of Environment is appealing to the community to help combat the impact of stony coral tissue loss disease on the Cayman Islands reef ecosystem. Easter week is expected to see more water sports activities. Pathogens on dive gear and boats can survive for extended periods and be transferred among reefs. If you are diving or snorkeling anywhere in the Cayman Islands and before traveling between Grand Cayman and the sister islands, disinfect your gear and bilge water in a 1% bleach solution for 10 minutes before moving to a new location. For more information or to make any reports, visit doe.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, and thank you for joining us. I say this every day with great sincerity that I'm honored and blessed, and I trust I always have a sense of integrity and humility in my endeavors, and if nothing else, I'm at least honest in my dishonesty. In the studio, if you don't mind me saying, a wonderful, example of what is, the Caymanian spirit that is exhibited in our ladies who, not just carried the flag, but, bore the great service and sacrifice to help build us, working hand in hand with the Iron Men on those wooden ships. Miss Emily Ducour, good afternoon, ma'am. Publicly, it's a pleasure to welcome you. I think on your maiden voyage here on, the Good Catboat Talk today.
Yes, it is. Yes, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it greatly. And hello to everybody in Cayman and our sister islands.
All right. Well, indeed, we're 3 islands, one beautiful people.
Exactly.
And I'm hoping that I get to see as much of all of it as I can. Through new lens, I've seen a greater appreciation. As I walk this place for half a century. I hope to see another century.
Exactly.
With that, though, I'm encouraged that our people are engaged. I'm encouraged by the resolve and the resilience, the passion, the enthusiasm, and the integrity, and to see more of us stepping up. What was the impetus for Emily's voyage into the political arena?
Absolutely. It stemmed from me, as a citizen, being just sort of continuously frustrated with the decisions of successive governments, really and truly. And, when volunteering within the community, you see that so many people are negatively affected by the decisions or lack thereof of decisions that have been made by successive governments, to the point where national issues are critical for the next administration to address, and the next administration has a very long road ahead of them due to the, like I said, inaction of previous governments. So I stepped up because as a proud, passionate environmentalist in Caymanian, I understand what's at stake if we don't elect leaders who prioritize environmental conservation, our children's future, ensuring that they have a high-quality, inclusive education, as well as advocating within government for our marginalized and vulnerable members of our community. And like I said, I've been volunteering best I can throughout my life. I was raised to always lend a hand to those less fortunate, because there's nothing that says that you will not at some point in your life be in that situation, right?
Yeah, by the grace of God, go higher. Right?
Exactly. So, we're in a very beautiful country where there are a lot of ways for us to prosper, but without government being comprised of people with the will to ensure prosperity for their people, it won't happen. So I'm stepping forward to be the change that I wish to see in my country. My studies, my life, my career have shown me where we could be as a country. And all I can see and perceive the excuses by government are, as I said, they're excuses. It takes people who are dedicated to seeing this country thrive and not just survive, right? Who want to see every single Caymanian and person living here succeed and be empowered. Governments really need to advocate on behalf of all within their community and not just a select few, as they have been doing, evidently. I always say people are consistent about what they're passionate about. And if you look at what government has been consistent about, you'll see what their passions are. And if you, like many of us in our community, don't feel like you've been prioritized by your government, that shows you where their passions lie.
On another vein, I would say that's an indictment, but I would leave that for now. For those who may not know of you, and a cousin of mine at a graduation, probably one of the first ones we had a Lions Center, because all of a sudden the graduating class was so large. Well, we were, as adults then, cheering on, our younger siblings, or in those cases, some of us had, children that were graduating. Wouldn't say who that was.
Yeah.
And on the list, there were all these names, and you got to the E-Bankses, and someone could drive these 10 and say, well, I'll be back before it gets to the Fs. Yeah. And someone said, one day, there won't be that many E-Bankses on the list, right? So said, so done, right? Tell us about Emily, if you wish, your education, your ancestry.
Yeah, absolutely. You speak about E-Bankses. I come from a long line of E-Bankses from West Bay. My grandmother was born and then married an E-Banks, so kept it within the family, right? I'm a ninth generational proud Caymanian from West Bay. My lineage on the Duku rather comes from my father, who's from Louisiana. But I was born here, raised here, grown up, educated here my entire life. I attended CCC school as well as the Savannah Primary School, so I'm familiar with what's available to our students publicly and privately. I've also attended UCCI to study environmental science, and then after that I studied early childhood education and paralegal studies online. So these courses that I've taken have sort of really shaped, come full circle to shape my campaign platform, which I call the 3 E's, which is comprised of environmental conservation, education reform, and equality for all. So these are 3 areas which are, to me, just basic human rights.
They go hand in hand.
Absolutely. They're very intrinsically linked, but they all are absolutely unequivocally for the benefit of all Caymanians, to ensure our long-term viability as a country that can see our own people succeed and thrive, like I said, rather than just survive.
And as we look at it now, you talked about perhaps the neglect, action and inaction of policies, whether through omission or commission, that may have not prioritized Caymanians. Yeah. For you going forward, what is it that is, you reference your 3 E's, and education is important, as well as the environmental protection. We see much in terms of development and the push for population, and then the word sustainability has been so bantered about that respectfully we use it almost like a cliche.
Yeah, exactly, right? So funnily that you say that, to address the sort of gaps that we can observe within our legislation and the enforcement thereof within these 3 areas that I'm so passionate about. I've developed what I'm referring to as a National Holistic Sustainable Development Plan, which, among other things, seeks to address the negative ripple effects that have been caused by unsustainable development. When you look at so many of the national issues that affect people in Cayman, and you look at the root cause of them, unsustainable development comes out on top most of the time. We're talking high cost of living that just continues to rise, meanwhile salaries remain the same. We've got traffic congestion and unsafe roads because the roads are not being updated in tandem with the developments going up. A lot of people, especially in Georgetown East, are experiencing flooding and stormwater drainage issues due to the developments being, going up on that land that's currently the South Sound Basin, which is just a giant mangrove rainforest. And with the destruction of that, the water needs somewhere to go. So when that's developed, the water, it floods people's homes, which creates health and safety issues as well as affects their property values, right? People's property insurance might be going up. People's value of their homes might be going down as a result of this, but their mortgage is staying the same, and that's unfair.
And as I listen to it, we realize that these are issues that we probably all know and may experience to different degrees. But is it the individual or the collective effort that is going to address it and bring about that positive, meaningful, lasting impact?
That's a great question. I think the individual effort will come from people like myself standing forward in order to make policies that make the community efforts more efficient, right? So as it stands, we've got a lot of individuals who are doing their small part, which absolutely makes a difference. But without government policies being enacted to make our lives and our processes more efficient, it's sort of a one step forward, two steps back kind of result.
We saw an editorial in the Compost way back when that talked about the notion that we're a small island, so our footprint in terms of our carbon emissions make little difference. We've heard political pundits, politicians, and say something similar that doesn't really matter. I mean, now I may not agree with that, but from what you're sharing, it sounds like that doesn't make much sense.
Well, I would disagree with that, but I would also look at it from two perspectives. So. Yes, I mean, we are a small country. We've got 60,000, give or take, people. So, it's not, for example, the population of the States in a small country contributing 300 million people's worth of garbage on Mount Trashmore, for example. But, if you're looking at the phrase success is a sum of small efforts repeated day in and day out, that also works in reverse, whereby, one person just using a disposable coffee cup, 60,000 people doing that every day, 365, that adds up slowly. But equally, when you replace small things in your life to not contribute to our waste and our footprint environmentally, that also adds up. So with Cayman being a financial services center globally, we've got a lot of funds here which are invested. Our laws are structured so that it's very attractive for funds to get incorporated and invest here. So with being the home of 75% of the world's funds, most of those funds invest in, quite frankly, climate change fueling industries. So while we don't think we're making a difference, by what our laws allow funds to do, it creates a complicity on Cayman's part in global warming and climate change inadvertently. We don't see it. We're not directly doing it, but we're enabling foreign investors and whatnot to sort of have this ability to, they make loads of money investing in mining, gas and oil, things that are just not environmentally friendly. So until we address that, we're sort of directly contributing to our own demise as a flat coastal community, right? So we're the 29th most vulnerable country in the world to sea level rise, and studies show that if the sea levels rose even 3 feet, people within 100 feet of the shoreline would have to move.
So put that mic closer to you for me. I want you to repeat that for me. The 29th most vulnerable country.
Yes, Cayman is the 29th most vulnerable country in the world to sea level rise.
Right.
Yes.
And this is where, when we look at our children and our young people in school, from primary school through their early years, as they undergo their undergraduate studies, we're seeing that they understand the impact of climate change, global warming, rising sea levels, their threat to developing nations, not just the economics of it, but the social implications, the threat to culture and historical societies in the notion.
Absolutely, yeah. When we don't preserve our natural environment, we don't preserve our culture.
Mm-hmm.
We are a country founded upon the seas, right?
Yeah.
And as at the rate we're going, our seas are going to be full of plastic. They're not going to have healthy, vibrant reefs, and they're just not going to be healthy oceans that we can rely on as a source of food, for example.
Thank you for sharing, because we would probably be able to quantify, or at least endeavor to quantify, the economic impact of our reefs, or our fishing industries, and so on. But then we don't
natural
see
capital.
Exactly. It's probably been abused in terms of carrying capacity.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't see that from there, the agrarian society that we once were weren't just the grounds that we pulled the provisions, but it was also the north-south, the fishing grounds that we went out and respectfully take what we needed for that day.
Yeah.
Today now we use and overuse.
Yes, definitely.
So in the 2 minutes or so that we have, 15 minutes ago is extremely fast. I
Yes,
must share that I've enjoyed having this first public conversation with you.
Yes, thank you.
And I trust that our public will go out in the large numbers that we have to date.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see 100% voter turnout.
Same here, absolutely.
Not that COVID thing keep you away from the polls.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It's important to vote. So, in closing, what do you want the voters to be reminded of? What do you want to share with us, in particular, those voters in, the constituency that you contested, Georgetown East?
In Georgetown East. I would say to Georgetown East voters that a vote on April 14th for number 2 on the ballot, Emily Duku, is a vote for a voice for the voiceless within the entire Cayman Islands and our community. It's a vote for participatory democracy. It's a vote for environmental conservation and anti-pollution, education that's accessible and inclusive for all of our students, as well as equality for all, including our animals within our country.
All right. And that is, not, I think, a tall order. It is certainly attainable.
Oh, no, absolutely. And I wouldn't propose what I'm proposing if I didn't think that these were accomplishable, if me running was an unviable feat. I do strongly feel that the representation that Georgetown East deserves lies within me. I'm confident in that, the people I've met, they've very much supported me, and I'm very grateful to have the opportunity, and it's an honor really to be in a position to where I could represent them.
Well, you certainly have conducted it with great integrity.
Thank you.
I hope I don't speak out of turn, listener off air, just waiting for asking us to share with you what an intelligent, eloquent young lady who seems to speak with not only passion. I hope DJ didn't repeated it to me. Hopefully I repeat it back correctly, and commend you for it. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Makes me feel good to know that we see the future through eyes that seem to be so hopeful. So thank you very much.
Thank you as well, Sterling. Thank you.
So Miss Emily Duku, number 2 on the ballot for Georgetown East.
Yes.
Have a blessed and safe, productive, enjoyable Easter.
Thank you so much. You too.
All right. And to our listeners, I can't believe tomorrow is Good Friday already. I kind of missed it. So we invite you to, as you reflect on what tomorrow brings, be jubilant on what Sunday, will rise in your life. If I have the good fortune to be able to endeavor and engage in what my heart desires, well, you'll see me with a smile on Tuesday. Until then, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. And Royal Fidelity Bank and Trust, money at work.